get it.
What's this woman yelling about?
Anyone feeling bad? I got hugs for you.
She's offering people hug therapy?
You want a hug? Yeah. I want a hug.
People do take her up on it.
Elmo, can I get a hug? Oh, Elmo.
The woman's actually Ricky Ratliff, one of my producers. I asked her to do this because there's a theory that hugging someone makes you and them more trusting, more willing to cooperate with people, and happier.
Do you feel better?
Oh, I feel great.
I feel better too. This is kind of weird.
I asked my producer to do that because I didn't want to do it. Even though our show title is Let Us Experiment, hugging strangers in Times Square is not the kind of experiment I want to do. But Paul Zach's eager to do it, and he's done versions of this for the past 14 years. Why?
We were wondering why prosperity lives in some countries, not others, and so we began studying the role of trust. And to really understand that, we wanted to get a biological basis for why we trust strangers.
And we trust strangers because of a certain chemical in our body?
It functions to cause us to reciprocate, almost always. You're nice to me, I'm nice to you. It's essentially the biological basis for the golden rule.
And so by hugging people, people release more of this hormone oxytocin, which also makes people happier.
Happier, healthier, reduces stress, improves the immune system, and promotes cooperation without anybody telling us we have to.
So you try to do scientific experiments with this in America, and America says no.
That's right. We did our first studies in Europe, and subsequently now have gotten FDA approval through kind of a backdoor method to do oxytocin infusion studies in the U.S.
And why? What's the point?
The question is, for a given environment, why would you ever trust me?
I wouldn't. You're some weirdo with drugs. You
and a crazy white coat. And yet we do it all the time, and if we don't do it, the economy crashes, because unless we have someone telling us what to do, we have to endogenously create opportunities to create wealth. And in countries with high trust, we see higher prosperity, greater happiness, greater well-being. So unless we use the drug in the U.S., we couldn't show the causation.
Now there have been more than 10,000 papers on oxytocin in the NIH PubMed site, growing from your research.
That's right, and we've been involved in clinical trials for autism and schizophrenia and social anxiety disorder. Let's try to discover something new. Now,
some people in Times Square reasonably didn't want to full frontal hug a stranger, so producer Ratliff tried an experiment of her own.
Here's the appropriate stranger side hug. You just saw it. Now, if you want to feel better, if you want your oxytocin levels to increase, I got to go full frontal.
No.
Okay. All right. She.
You are a stranger.
Stranger danger, guys.
All kinds of people are happy to hug you?
They are. In fact, I've refused handshakes for 5 years.
Now, my producer did get full frontal hugs from dozens of strangers. I was surprised that very few turned her down. Some people ran to her.
Oh, she's running.
Oh, she's running. Oh, she's running. We're doing this.
So I'm in the middle of my hug experiment, and I'm probably about 40 hugs in. I've hugged men, I've hugged women, I've hugged children. The men I've hugged, they hugged me a little too tightly. If my dad's watching, he's not going to appreciate this. Oh, this guy's coming in. He's going in. He's going in for the kill. He's going in for... Oh.
I feel better.
I feel fantastic. Maybe Dr. Love is onto something.
Data show that this makes people happy, the hug, but to do it scientifically, oxytocin, how?
So we infuse it into the nose, and it gets into the brain after about an hour, and then we can show this causal relationship between oxytocin and these positive social behaviors like trust, charity, generosity, and empathy for others. Do you want to try?
Sure.
All right.
So you have this is why you're wearing the white coat.
That's right.
OSHA requires it?
I'm required to wear a white coat, and I'm going to take 5 little puffs, and you take a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Big breath. Good. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is. Big breath. Okay, one more round trip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Big breath.
And what's this supposed to do?
It kind of melt the barrier between you and me, or between you and anybody you see.
So here's one other experiment that you ran. You gave people the oxytocin spray and then showed them this video. You call it the Cancer Kid video.
it's a point where all of our known medicines stop working.
This was a pitch a research center used to raise money.
What do you see? Ben's dying. There are no words to describe how it feels to know that your time is limited.
And people who got the spray gave more money?
In fact, the video itself causes about a 50% increase in oxytocin. If we give you more oxytocin, we increase the donations to a childhood cancer charity by 50%.
Well, one weird experiment after the other. Thank you, Dr. Paul Zak. Later at the end of the show, we'll see. This takes a while to take effect. We'll see if I feel all happy and loving. But next, more experiments with other Stossels. Do you get anxious often? I do. I worry that I'll stutter on TV, humiliate myself. I get nervous at noisy parties. I worry that my TV ratings will go down and Fox will fire me. But whatever anxiety I have is nothing compared to what my nephew Scott experiences, and it's anxiety I never knew about.
Our next guest kept his struggle a secret for years, even from his uncle John Stossel. And John and his nephew join us right now.
Scott and I appeared on Fox and Friends because he recently wrote this bestseller, My Age of Anxiety. So, Scott, sorry that you're anxious, but congratulations on having a bestseller, which I'm ticked off about because it's, I think, outselling my last book.
Thank you, but your ratings are higher than mine, I'm sure.
So, I mean, you are that anxious, you can write this book about it, and most of us didn't know. I mean, certainly your parents knew, but I never knew. Why not?
People with panic disorder in particular, you have this incredible fear about having your anxiety exposed, and so you do everything you can to kind of, you build this, you know, what one of my therapists calls it's impression management, and you try to project this outward veneer of competence and confidence and calm, and that is, as I say, both a symptom but also contributes to the anxiety because you're spending so much work trying to keep that house of cards intact because you're afraid if it falls down and the veneer falls, you know, everyone will see me for the weak, anxious, pathetic person that I am.
Weak, anxious, pathetic. But if you look at your list of phobias, enclosed spaces, heights, fainting, being trapped far from home, germs, cheese, flying, vomiting, speaking in public. And yet, here you are on this show, and not just this show, to promote Age of Anxiety. He did lots of radio and TV shows, including big ones. Charlie Rose, here he is with Stephen Colbert, who makes jokes about his fear of cheese.
I would rather be buried in a sarcophagus full of, say, rats and snakes, which I'm actually not afraid of, although many people are, than be sort of dipped into like some gorgonzola.
So no cheese, no cheese.
No cheese.
So you're good with Velveeta, though?
No, not even Velveeta.
You drug yourself up to do a TV show like that.
Yes, I do.
Did you take something? I mean, I'm your uncle. Do you have to take something today?
Less than I would to have to contend with Colbert.
And what typically do you take to speak publicly?
Generally, I will do take a benzodiazepine like Xanax or Klonopin, and if it's a high stakes one, and don't try this at home. I'm not a doctor. I don't recommend this, but I'll sometimes combine that with small amounts of alcohol.
You really titrate, not too much or I'll be sleepy,
right.
Not enough and I'll just run off the stage, as you have done.
Yes.
Why did you even want to do this? You're torturing yourself.
It has been sort of therapeutic, having to do this public speaking on a regular basis.
And it's like you're trying different techniques. You've tried a million techniques, the drugs, prescribed, psychotherapy, more drugs, nothing's worked. Or it's all worked, or some things worked a little.
Some things have worked a little. Nothing has fundamentally cured the underlying disorder or, sort of stamped out the anxiety. But, for me, certain medications can be incredibly effective, thank God, at treating the symptoms of the anxiety. At various times, different forms of talk therapy have been effective at getting me through things.
And for other people, some get helped by any of them.
Yeah, and it's hard to predict. One never knows. In general, and this is sort of a gross overstatement, but for any given treatment, 1/3 of the people will get better, 1/3 of the people will get better for a short period of time and then relapse, and 1/3 of the people it won't help at all. But you can't really tell in advance necessarily, at least at this point, which 1/3 will be affected by which particular treatment.
So go try stuff. Try an experiment.
Yeah.
See what works.
Yeah, which can feel a little bit like being a guinea pig.
I'm going to go back to this. I didn't know. We have this picture of you that came out with the Atlantic article that you did. And you look miserable. And I didn't think you were a happy kid. But I wasn't a happy kid either. It's a Stossel trait. But this was you being anxious.
Yeah, and here I was on vacation in Bermuda. I was 10 years old. I should have been very happy, but I was grumpy and unhappy about, I think we had to go to dinner and it was making me nervous. But
well, if my brother made you dress that way in Bermuda, then I see why.
Well, but I have to say, actually, your memory is faulty, because I have this very touching recollection of being incredibly anxious. It was Thanksgiving dinner and you were over, and I got very nervous about a stomach ache, and you sat there while I paced back and forth and were very consoling and kind to me while I sat there and worried about my stomach ache. So you've forgotten about this, but I didn't, so thank you.
I didn't understand that. Here's a picture of you and me at my wedding, and your sister, who is also anxious, which could make people say, this just runs in the family.
There is a strong underlying genetic component to anxiety disorders, which obviously afflicts me, my sister, many of my ancestors.
Well, thank you, Scott Stossel. Coming up, more Stossels trying crazy experiments. What's wrong with us? Or maybe it's not wrong.